From the Big Red Junkies, our good friend Jed, one of the original 7, the senior analyst of the program.
Mr. Yeager.
Mr. Jägermeister himself does a podcast, Big Red Junkies. And Jed actually did some of this for us last year, too, when we were trying to project what Dylan Raiola would do as a freshman, as a top 15 rated freshman in the country at quarterback. And now we're projecting year two of Dylan Raiola. So let's take a look. What he did was he went back to 2016 and looked at the top 15 rated quarterbacks coming out of high school, according to, I believe it was 24/7 Sports. There were, in that time, and this is excluding the year 2020 because we all know that year was kind of messed up, 105 total quarterbacks in that top 15. 14 of them played 500 or more snaps in their freshman season. So 14 of the 105 were essentially freshman starting quarterbacks. Their averages in their freshman year, their win percentage was 64%, their completion percentage was 59%, their average yards among those 14 quarterbacks was just a shade under 2,500 yards. Their touchdowns rounded up 19 per game or 19 per season, and interceptions rounded up to 7. Those are the averages. Dylan last year, of course, went 7-6. That's a 54% win percentage, a little bit lower than the average. His completion percentage was 9 points better than the top 15 average, 67%. He threw for about 350 more yards than the average top 15 freshman starting quarterback, 2,819. But the touchdown average the touchdowns were down from the average. The freshman 15, I guess we can call it, average 19. And Dylan had 13 touchdowns last year. And the interceptions, 7 on average. Dylan threw 11. So in a couple categories, he was better. In a couple categories, he was a little worse. Win percentage, a little bit worse as well. But that's where Dylan fit in as a freshman. So then what Jed did, courtesy again of the Big Red Junkies podcast, of that freshman 14, those 14 freshmen who played 500 or more snaps as freshmen, how did they do as sophomores? Of those freshmen 14, 9 of the 14 also played 500 or more snaps as a sophomore. And we'll look at some of the individual names here in just a moment because Jed was kind enough to share a spreadsheet with me. So we'll get into a little bit more of the details in a second. But 9 of the 14 who played as freshmen also played starting quarterback as sophomores. Average win percentage, 75%. Completion percentage, 63%. Total yards, average per season, 3,022. Touchdowns, 25. Interceptions, 5.7, just a little bit less than 6. So, based on that, Jed did a projection on the improvement from freshman year to sophomore year. And what he came up with was this. Obviously, if you're going to win 75% of your games in a 12-game schedule, that means you go 8-4. The improvement from freshman year to sophomore year for the freshman 14 was bumped up by about 4.5, 5 percentage points. So Dylan next year could be projected to throw for 71% completions. Yardage, 3,400 yards based on the improvement from year 1 to year 2. Touchdowns from 13 up to 17, and interceptions cut from, 11 last year he threw? Yeah, 11 interceptions down to 9. So again, what Jed is projecting, based on the average top 15 rated quarterback out of high school who played their first 2 years in college, 71% completion percentage, 3,400 yards passing, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions.
Huh.
That's what you're looking at. So I'm going to leave that up, by the way, for those of you, and I'm going to tweet out these graphics a little bit later on. I retweeted Jed's original tweet, which has the same information, but we'll share these graphics here a little bit later on in the JTech Construction Zone Twitter page. I'm going to take a peek here individually just to give you an idea. Who are we talking about? Who are these quarterbacks we're talking about that Dylan is in the same class with? So the 9 quarterbacks who played 500 or more snaps as a freshman, who then also played 500 or more snaps as a sophomore, are Caleb Williams. Of course, started as a freshman at Oklahoma before he transferred to USC. But Caleb Williams started 14 games his sophomore year and threw for 4,500 yards, 42 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Really good season.
Very good season.
Bo Nix. Bo Nix in year 2 as a sophomore started 11 games, went 6-5, threw for 2,400 yards, had a 12-7 touchdown interception ratio. Sam Howell at North Carolina went 8-4 his second season, started all 12 games, 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Max Duggan, Council Bluffs' own, at TCU, played in 10 games, started 9, went 6-3 in those games, threw for 1,800 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4 picks. Trevor Lawrence at Clemson, 14-1 in his sophomore year. 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns, 8 picks. Jake from State Farm.
Nice.
Georgia. Started all 14 games, went 11-3, 2,700 yards, 30 touchdowns, 6 picks. Sam Ellinger, Texas, 2018. Started all 14 games, 3,200 yards, almost 3,300 yards, 25 touchdowns, 5 picks. A 10-4 record for the Horns. Kellen Mond started 13 games for Texas A&M. They went 9-4. He threw for 3,100 yards, 24-9 TD to INT ratio. And finally, Jalen Hurts. 14 games, 13-1 record, 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So that's the class of quarterback that, assuming Dylan Raiola plays most of the games this year and takes over 500 snaps, he would be in the same group as those gentlemen. So those are the numbers, the averages that Jed was pulling his figures from.
That's pretty good company to be a part of.
It is good company to be part of. It's not a guarantee. No one is saying it's a guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the guys who have done it, and all of them at Power Conference schools.
And most of them have gone on to have pretty successful pro careers.
That is correct. That is correct. So that's Jed's projections for next year for Dylan Raiola.
Pro Jed.
So we could, yes, thank you. We could look at that,
workshop it,
and have something kind of base that into what our predictions might be for the upcoming season.
It is a good set of data to be able to form a baseline or foundation on to what we should expect to see out of Dylan Raiola.
Sure. He was a top 15 recruit, number 2 quarterback in the class. So, and all of these guys were in that same boat. So again, I'll retweet those graphics that I did and get that out on the JTech Construction Zone Twitter page. And again, thanks to Jed and the Big Red Junkies. Look up Big Red Junkies on your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. And you can hear Jed go off and probably piss off people at Colorado or Florida State or wherever he might be pissing off people.
Jed does love to piss off people in Colorado.
He certainly does.